Hello and welcome to Winter Disco Tabletop Gaming. We're continuing our in-depth look at the Adeptus Mechanicus Range, all the different models. We've already looked at some already, but in this video we're going to be checking out the Electro Priests and the Dunecrawler. And if you do enjoy this video or this series, please let me know in the comments. And you can also let me know by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel, because this is going to be a long series, probably going to be about 10 plus parts. And then we're going to go into another army. So a lot of in-depth information, a lot of discussion, and I'm really interested to know what you think of the models and what we're talking about. So let's get on with the video. So back to some older models. We've got the Corpuscari Electro Priests and the Fulgurite Electro Priests. So let's talk about the Corpuscari first. What is going on here? This was something that I didn't know about from the lore. I didn't know what these guys were. I love it. It is just so bizarre and so 40k. Dudes that have had their eyes ripped out and they've got electricity flowing through their body in some kind of religious ceremony or procedure that's done this to them. I think that's very, very interesting. What I would like is that there would be more variation between them. We do have the different loincloths, I guess, which have a lot of detail on it, very nice detail. And then the upper body themselves is basically the same face, which is a bit disappointing, same body. And there's some slight differences in there, but it's a really interesting concept. I would imagine that, to me, this would be more of an individual model rather than an entire unit. So you've got the Scutari, which makes sense. It's part of an army, but these are like Electro Priests. And I do need to read a little bit more on the background of these guys just to see, refresh my memory. I do recall reading a long time ago, but just to refresh my memory. The standout things are the weird knobbly bits. If we go to some close-ups here, the weird knobbly bits all over their heads and the cabling. To me, AdMech need ridiculous amounts of cabling and weird tendril cables that come off that really seem to serve a purpose. To me, AdMech is all about odd things that probably make sense to them, probably don't even really do anything, but because it's part of the schematics of creating these objects, it's what you do. I imagine that running through the power of these power cables, probably only need one cable, one thick cable instead of all of these, but that's how it's been designed. And it's been like that for thousands of years, so they're not going to want to change it. But you do get the impression that these knobbly bits are very much like, I don't know what they're called. When you're at a power station, you see them all, and like every now and again, lightning will arc between them. I just imagine there'd be arcs of electricity all around their heads, all around their hands. Just this stupid battery pack on their back. Like the idea that they just pop out a big button battery and sticking you in when they need to. Really, really funky. It's almost like a torture device. And you do get all the scars that have probably been illuminated with some luminescent oil or something like that, just to show, yes, we're lightning men. We are very lightning men. Very odd. I mean, the backpack I find is a little, don't like it too much. It feels a bit strange. Doesn't seem to make sense, but then it's AdMech. Does any of it make sense? No, probably not. Let's go back to some closer ones here. Yeah, I mean, it's very cool. I love the lower half of the body. The boots, for some reason, I've always noticed the boots being super, super chunky. The Tattered Cloak, I'm all about Tattered Cloaks. I wish the Scutari models had more Tattered Cloaks. And I do love how you do have the belt buckles on here. Even though these guys are so highly advanced with their weird electricity flowing through bodies, keeping them alive, mind you. Yeah, that's a weird one. They still got leather straps. It's weird. 40k is weird. Yeah, the backpack. It's almost like a snail shell hanging off the back. Kind of odd, kind of weird. So let's look at the Fulgurite. So these guys, similar. So the base models are the same. These ones have different arms and legs, different backpacks, different head dresses. So if you buy a kit, you're gonna get tons of bits in it. I don't like it. The poles, whatever they're called, whatever they're gonna call them, they're too thick. I think there's too much going on. There's too much weight to them. I think possibly if they were longer, it would be cool. What you could do, and this is something that I've considered, if we go back to these guys here, there is, yeah. So these weapons here, they're kind of like the battens, taser battens or whatever. Use that design, make it thinner, but stick it on there, in that butt there, like make it longer. To me, that would take away this odd bulkiness to it that I really don't like. I just think this part needs to be thinner and a little bit longer. I mean, really, it is just personal preference. Definitely more form than function, and these things are very much form over function. And they do charge like electricity through them and whack people. That's why I think it should be a bit longer. It could benefit from where, like, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you know, almost adding another third to the length of the bit where their arms is. I can keep the middle bit. I'm happy with that being thick. That's okay. I think having that different depth of thickness in the pole itself is fine. Just, I think it's the half cog on the end as well. I don't particularly like that. I don't get the impression that these are electrical things. Like, you do have the ribbing conduit things there. That's very reminiscent of like power plants and things like that. But I don't get the impression that it's going to cycle through a lot of energy where the other weird battens do. So those battens there, I get that impression for some reason. I don't know why. It looks more like a taser with the weird prong at the end. That's just me. So let's have a look at the backpack. I prefer this backpack more compared to the weird snail shell ones. Yeah, I think it could be even bulkier. Some more weird bits on it. What I would like to see is if we can go to some weapons. Let's find some weapons. This part here, I've always seen this as like a really cool power generator. So you could grab that, a couple of those, 2 of those, I think, and somehow put them on the back. They don't have to be that big, but that gives you more the impression of electric generation. But again, complete personal preference. I love the idea of the cog around their heads, around their necks. It does tie them into Mechanicus, which is cool. Yeah, and again, the cabling, I'm not that big a fan of that thick cabling. I think getting a bit thicker, thicker? That's the opposite of what I'm saying. Thinner, probably like double them up, twist up some. I don't know, I just think these are ripe for conversion to make something a little bit more visually interesting. It's like I'm completely against these rod parts. I'm not. It just doesn't feel right. It feels more like a hitting weapon, which it is. I'm not going to deny that it is a hitting weapon, but I feel like it should be more than a hitting weapon. It should be a weapon that you hit, but you don't have to hit very hard because it's like a taser. It's got electrical charge running through it, which makes sense for these guys. And that's probably what it does. But yeah, I love how they got the whole Frankenstein monster thing stuck into their necks. It's kind of cool. And I'd like to see some models without that bit, just to see what it looks like, because it takes away from the shape of their head. Could possibly do something with that. Maybe even stick it onto the backpack in some way. I prefer the smaller backpacks, but I think making this a bit more of a dangerous electrical thing, like a generator using that part of the gun there, which you can buy. You can buy these guns off Bits parts in like Bits box and Mega Bits. You can get those. I've bought a couple of them. It's super cheap. Yeah, I think doing that would be really interesting. These models are really cool and funky. There's a lot of really good elements about them, but there's also not. There's things that I would want to change. So for example, instead of the big chunky cable, grab some of these cables. You may have to bend them and twist them and flex them to get them in the right angle. I find that a little bit more interesting. And then change the battens here. On these ones, I would change the snail shell backpack. You could even, if you wanted to push it, put some of these little knobbly bits onto the skin themselves, stick them through the legs a bit. Yeah, like some customization I think would take these from a pretty cool model, a very interesting idea, just a step up to be like, this is amazing. I don't think it takes too much work. So yeah, I rank these probably like a 3 out of 5 if we're going ranking, and I'm not going to do ranking, I'm just chatting about it. Onto the Dunecrawler, Onagar Dunecrawler. Such a strange model. When I first saw it back in the day, when it came out, I was like, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. It's weird. It's like a crab, weird crabby spider type thing. I really like it. It has all that ridiculous stuff on the legs that completely unnecessary. As most things in 40k are completely unnecessary. Let's get like a 360 going up. The weird legs, which honestly, why is it designed like this? It makes absolutely no sense. But again, it's AdMech, so you deal with it how it is. I imagine it just is not a very, when I say it's not very maneuverable, it's maneuverable, but in a very awkward way. The whole top would be shaking around all over the place, because I'm assuming each leg would move independently, or at least in pairs, probably in pairs. And it looks like the legs do rotate around in various different ways. So it does have maneuverability, but I just imagine it's be bouncing up and down like all over the place. And this poor fella in the front there is be like, well, I can't shoot anything because I can't aim properly. And of course, because it is AdMech, it has the weird sticky outy bits on the front. Models need more of those bits. Just little tiny arms that come out. Doesn't have to be there. Doesn't have to be huge over like a big backpack. Just sticking out, you know, off the shoulder a bit. Maybe just one sticking out. I think they all need that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really know what to say about this model. I think it's just a really solid model. And like I was saying before, you do get those curved edges. So in here and that part there where it opens up for the missiles, that's curved at the top. You've got on like the leg protector, armored bits, it's curved. Yeah, it's curved on the edges as well, where Space Marines and Imperial Guard and other Imperial factions would be very hardline. That would be not curved at all. It would be very straight. And even when you can see like the foot is curved as well. And then I guess, I don't know what you call that. It's like a bone, but it's curved around the side. It's all circular. It's got the rivet sticking out. The ovalish insert inlay there. It's very form over function. They probably could have designed this in a very utilitarian mechanical, no fuss way, but they didn't. They made it like a weird shield shape with weird symbols and stuff all over it because they could. Like I was saying earlier, it's like they're trying to hold on to some kind of natural humanistic type of thing. There's various different loadouts in this. Like this is, I think this kind of weapon on that side is really nice compared to that open side. I actually really like that. It feels much more lower to the ground. In fact, I think it might be if we, oh no, it's kind of the same. Maybe it's the paint job too. Feels much lower to the ground, much more mechanical, because even though it does have that roundness there, it's very straight lines on the gun. It all comes down to design aesthetics. Again, you get those curved things on the side. It's like it's completely unnecessary for this panel here to have rounded edges. It's just not necessary. Admech are doing it very much on purpose. So I think it's a really good design choice. And then we've got some different loadouts. Again, weird funky weapons, which are awesome, very glowy. It's a glowing thing with like copper cylinders going around it. Very cool. And a few more close-ups there. Just all those little tiny design choices, all the little curved, the coloring as well, particularly a bony color, which is a natural thing, very purposely done. Yeah, I like it. So I don't want to talk too much about this one, to be honest. I think it's a really solid model. There's nothing I would really pick apart. If I had my choice, I would add more legs, but that's just my own personal opinion. I have seen a very, very cool conversion using the lower part of this and the top of a Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought. And the more I think about it, the more it doesn't work. I love the idea of like the 4 legs on the bottom of the Dreadnought, but it's the design choice where I've been saying that Space Marines, their design aesthetic is very hard lines. So on this machine here, it is a hard, sharp line there, which is fine. It works because we have so many other curved lines, like all the other paneling is curved. We have the rivets, which are circular. So it's adding that more organic feel. The gun here is very circular. And then you have the paneling down here is rounded, doesn't have like straight edges. Nothing is really hitting at a right angle. Some of it is, but mostly not. But then you stick a very militaristic function over form design on top of this. It doesn't quite work. I think you could get away with it with the legs to a degree if you change the paneling, make it more rounded. You could probably get some panels from various different things, like the Storm Speeder has a lot of different panels on it that you could probably cut up and stick on, and that would work. But it's that very, very subtle design choice that doesn't work for Space Marines. It doesn't work for Imperial Guard. It doesn't work for Sisters of Battle. It's very Admech, very Adeptus Mechanicus, which it should be. They are a completely different faction that was going on for thousands of years before the Emperor Man turned up and made a deal to get them into the Imperium. And even then, are they really part of the Imperium? They kind of do their own thing. Of course, they're going to be completely different. Even if it's subtle differences, it's differences enough that when you put 2 models next to each other, essentially the same kind of model, you'll be like, yeah, that's one faction, that's another faction. And it comes down to subtleness. Just thought that was just something I thought on. It's a very interesting point to me anyway. So there you go, the Electro Priests and the Dunecrawler. Out of these 2, it's really hard to pick which ones I like the most. I love the idea of the Electro Priests. I think there's a few things they could do differently, like we talked about ad nauseum during this video. And then the Dunecrawler, while that section was a little bit shorter, I really, really like the model. I think there's a lot going on for it. Overall, I would like a little bit more detail in that model itself, but I think it's really strong. Out of the 2, I'm not going to choose because we're not actually ranking them. We're just reviewing the range. So there you go. If you have got this far, thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Hit that like button, comment below what one of your favorites and what you like, dislike about the models. And if you are new, hello, hit that subscribe button because like I've said, we got plenty more of these videos coming out. So until next time, thanks for watching and I will see you later.